Is it possible that Ripple and XRP will one day completely take the place of the US Federal Reserve? This is exactly what we're going to talk about in this video because a new video came out that has a lot of people wondering, is this the whole point of Ripple and XRP existence? Here's my take on whether this is possible, how likely it is to happen, and how long we have to wait for it to happen if it is possible. Guys, don't miss this movie. As always, you love this station and help me a lot. Thank you to everyone who liked the movies and signed up for the channel. These two easy things help me a lot. Please let me know if you find a better place to buy XRP. You can find my version of this hold down in the video's description. Anyway, I'll listen right away, and I hope you guys enjoy what's being said. But as I said at the beginning of the video, not financial advice. Crypto just released a brand new movie that talks about how Ripple and the Federal Reserve are alike. I want to tell you about some very strange events that will probably make you drop your jaw. After this, I'd like to talk more about whether or not Ripple could replace the Federal Reserve and whether this has always been the plan. First, I'd like to show you the movie by Not Financial Advice Crypto. Guys, make sure you watch the whole video because it's shocking when you start to see some of the connections. Big thanks to him for doing this study. I don't usually follow and get into this kind of study, but I find it really interesting. And I think this is one of those things that will really make you think about a few things, even if you don't believe in riddles. First, let's go over this. Then I'll talk about what I think about Ripple and XRP taking the place of the Federal Reserve. Could I tell you that in the years before the Federal Reserve was created, there was a very famous bear cartoon called the Roosevelt Bears? Was telling young people across the country about the exact cities where the Federal Reserve would soon open banks. Teddy Roosevelt took the bears to see the Treasury, the Philadelphia Mint to see tons of metal and paper money being made. It was all about money and getting big deals in steel and oil. Taught kids how to use IDs and cash checks, and one of them even saw a psychic who said they would become rich. Anyway, the Roosevelt Bears and BG 123 have more in common than just Teddy Roosevelt and bear pictures coming out before a huge change in banking. It's said that the bears traveled with an owl they never talked about, climbed to the top of an eagle's nest on a ship, dressed up as cowboys with Teddy Roosevelt, rang a bell, went to a castle, and even said that the world is a stage. What were the bears' names? Teddy B and Teddy G. The Roosevelt Bears, which ran right before the Federal Reserve was created and shares a lot of ideas with BG 123, were given the name What's Going On with Teddy Roosevelt, which can also mean bear, and the letters BG. Why on earth would this just happen by chance? To begin with, that video is certainly interesting. As far as I can tell, the only thing that is certain about this video is that whoever made the bearable guy questions clearly looked at those old riddles about how the Federal Reserve was created and was trying to copy them. Now, after watching this video, many people think that Ripple will one day take the place of the US Federal Reserve. That's what I want to talk about for the rest of the video, besides the fact that that is really interesting. No matter if you believe in riddles or not, the clear connection between the riddle of how the Federal Reserve was created and this one about Ripple and XRP is mind-boggling on its own. To go back and connect those dots, you did an amazing job. Having said that, does it make sense for Ripple and XRP to take the place of the US Federal Reserve? Before we talk about that, I think it's important to know how the Federal Reserve works. In its current form, the Federal Reserve is a separate business. It's not really an official part of the US government, but they do a lot of things that the US government does. The President of the United States chooses the head of the Federal Reserve, which makes it seem like a government agency. But more importantly, they make money, which is a very important job. What does the US Treasury say about that? The Federal Reserve then buys that debt to give all the banks that are backed by it new money. The Federal Reserve is a very important part of the current money system. Now, if you think that a big change in the way money works is just around the corner, I think you are probably right. That being said, I don't think it will change how the monetary system works when it comes to the idea that debt issuing creates money. Those kinds of things would only change if the whole system broke down and we had to find a new way to do things. Plus, to be honest, I don't think we're very close to the whole experiment in monetary policy and the financial system that we're in right now falling apart. Prices are going up again. The GDP is growing pretty well. In the minds of most people, it seems like our country's finances are getting better. And I don't think this is the time when the whole system falls apart. Is Ripple going to take the place of the Federal Reserve? That's our question. That's not really what I think Ripple would do, however. When all is said and done, the Federal Reserve is just a tool for making money. And that's not really how Ripple fits into their plan to change the banking system as a whole. The banking system is going through a huge change, but it has to do with the pipes, has to do with the building. It has to do with turning the method we use now into a digital one, not taking the machine apart and building a new one from scratch. The foundation is now being torn apart, the plumbing is being taken apart. You can still use the same money method we have now, though, a way for a coin network to pay back debts. Take cryptocurrency and turn all of these different loan instruments into tokens. You can also turn money into tokens. To use blockchain technology to make the exact same system we have now, I believe we are most likely going in that direction right now. People like BlackRock, other big banks, and even the Federal Reserve are already talking about tokenizing money, assets, and debt because it makes the system better. The standard money system works better with this one. But it's not as simple as saying, okay, we'll get away with the debt-back service. That item will no longer be used, as it doesn't make sense to change something like that until it breaks and falls apart. It's much more likely that Ripple will step in and replace the Federal Reserve. But I'm not sure if that's even possible or if it could happen in a way that makes sense, since the Federal Reserve is only one part of the issue. The Treasury is the other part. The whole banking system is the other part. There isn't much to the Federal Reserve other than moving money from one place to another. If Ripple were to take the place of the Federal Reserve, it would basically do the same thing that the Federal Reserve does now. What does Ripple have to gain by doing that when they have different business lines that focus on different things? It doesn't make sense for Ripple to switch that out. You could say something like, hey, maybe we can turn this car into an airplane. And it's like, well, we already have cars and planes for different reasons. Why do you really need to do that? Another better way to think about it is that the Federal Reserve and the whole banking system work on a system that moves money around like carrier birds carry mail. And if we can get everything to work over email, we won't have to change the data that's being sent back and forth. We are still able to send and receive the same records. These tools can still be used the same way they have been used in the past. Their only change is that they will be much more efficient, move money faster, and make it easier to keep track of. It will now lead to new things, just like email did, which made it possible for new functions that carrier birds couldn't carry out. However, I believe that is how Ripple will be included in this whole thing. It's much more likely that Ripple works with the Federal Reserve to improve the current lines of the financial system and digitize them so they work better. With the way monetary policy is set up now, that's likely to stay that way for a while. I already said at the beginning of the movie that I don't think we'll change how money is made, which is something the Federal Reserve does very well. You also can't get rid of the Federal Reserve and say that everything works the same. The whole system as we know it would fall apart, and it would be impossible to tell what is going on now. A lot of people seem to think that they could just get rid of the Federal Reserve. They are only a part of the picture. They're just a part of this crazy complicated machine. It doesn't help to just take them out and replace them with Ripple.